On this edition of Next Africa, the continent's booming tech ecosystem with the rise of several unicorns in recent years, the startup community is finding its feet. Fintech leads the charge with 2 IPOs on the continent for the first time in more than 5 years, signaling growing confidence in the scalability of African tech. We speak with AI-powered firm Optasia on its expansion push and with unicorn Flutterwave on how it's positioning for growth. Plus, bridging the digital divide from the startup helping to bring affordable and reliable internet to townships to the leaders looking to telecom infrastructure to build AI growth, how the players are building the backbone for Africa's tech revolution. Welcome to Next Africa. I'm Jennifer Zabasaja. Africa's tech ecosystem is thriving. The continent has produced several unicorns, and the startup scene is also steadying after a few rocky years. New data shows that venture activity is slowly recovering and settling into a more stable rhythm. While it's not the explosive growth we saw in the boom from years back, data from Avca shows investor appetite is growing, albeit with a more cautious and focused approach. Regionally, we're also seeing the map of tech investment evolve. While Southern Africa leads in total capital raised, West Africa remains the busiest hub for deal-making. But some of the most interesting shifts are happening in East Africa. Over the last decade, Rwanda has been positioning itself as Africa's testbed for technology. From drone delivery to electric transportation solutions, the country is quickly becoming a launchpad for the next wave of African innovation. Bloomberg's Ndiro Oganga reports.
Zipline is one of Rwanda's biggest tech breakthrough stories. What started as a small drone pilot in Muhanga is now a global logistics leader. It launched Africa's first aerial delivery network, modernizing access to blood supplies and medicine across rural Rwanda. Today, Zipline operates across 5 African countries and into food delivery in the US.
We have so far delivered 20 million doses of vaccine. The drone really supports in vaccine delivery because it can reach even in places where there are no hospitals. It can reach in hard-to-reach places and make sure that we avoid to have zero-dose children.
At the heart of Kigali city center is Norsken, a startup hub that is leveraging on Rwanda's testbed ecosystem to launch businesses into East Africa and beyond.
Norsken House Kigali supports 300 farms through community, networking, and access to capital, while its investment vehicle manages $208 million backing high-growth African startups. Fixer, an HR fintech, has raised over $1 million while piloting at Norsken, and Edencare, an insurtech company, used Rwanda as a testbed environment to refine its health insurance product before scaling regionally.
Let's say if it was taking you 3 years to get your license to operate, that is 3 years where you're not operating. If you get it in 6 hours, you can already start to work on your solution.
Despite the success stories, the industry still faces challenges such as limited technical expertise, a small domestic market, and the difficulty of funding innovation at an early stage. In order to compete with Africa's tech hubs in South Africa and Kenya, Rwanda is capitalizing on the gaps in the market, such as an unfavorable policy environment and tight regulation to attract early-stage startups.
The intention we've made as a proof of concept hub is to say, let's not wait until everything is in place. If it's a regulation that is missing, are we able to build one as we test and pilot some of these applications?
When Zipline arrived in 2016, Africa had never seen drone delivery, but Rwanda's unique approach to regulation made it the perfect testing ground.
There were no drone regulation at the time, and our industry was falling across multiple regulators, but Rwanda was like, if we don't have this regulation in place, we will learn together.
The bet is paying off. In 2023, Rwanda received $107 million in foreign private inflows, accounting for 12% of the country's total foreign private investment. Today, the percentage has grown to 18%. The government hopes to leverage this momentum in its long-term efforts to establish Rwanda as a leading tech hub.
What's also most interesting is not that Zipline was able to scale out of Rwanda. What's interesting is that because of the faith and the bet that we put on Zipline, We created the right policy and regulatory environment, and today we have over 10 drone companies.
Rwanda's favorable policy is moving beyond tech into adjacent sectors. Authorities stopped registering internal combustion engine motorbikes, which account for more than half of all vehicles in the country. The green shift is aimed at cementing demand for early-stage e-mobility adoption. Ampersand and Spiro, two startups known across East Africa for their growing fleet of e-bikes, are setting the example for the race to rev up Rwanda's tech hub ambitions.
I asked Deepali Nangia, partner at Speedinvest, to help unpack Africa's funding landscape and what the next wave of investment could look like. Here's what she told us.
The models that we are seeing right now that are super interesting on the lending side, obviously AI is going to have a big impact, as you know. If you can convert some of this unstructured data to structured data using AI, you can use the data for better underwriting and more fraud prevention, as well as personalized payment plans, right, and leading to more financial inclusion. On the payment side, we've also seen a lot of stable coins, as I'm sure you've heard. Stable coins are becoming more and more prominent, and for African freelancers to get paid for the work for some of the American companies that they're doing, or for African exporters to get paid in stable coins, it reduces some of the currency volatility that are inherent in some of the local economies. So, on the credit as well as the payment side, we are seeing lots of interesting innovation. On the infrastructure side, growth capital and equity capital is always slightly harder to get as the companies grow, and we're seeing lots of models around, interesting things around securitization, which would unlock more equity, or credit against stablecoin, for instance, which would unlock more debt. So lots of really interesting innovation coming out of Africa. So very excited about it.
Are you seeing the same level of activity, I guess, as we could call it, when it comes to exits for some of these companies that you're investing in?
I mean, to be honest, Jennifer, exits is always a very interesting topic, right? Whether it's Europe or Africa, it's a fragmented continent, as you can imagine. But if you think about exits, most exits, at least for venture capitalists, will come from M&A, right? M&A from the domestic market. Africa, of course, has seen some exits from international players, which is always interesting. I think the largest exit, InstaDeep, was also BioNTech, an international player. Paystack was bought by Stripe, an international player. Last year, we saw some Latin American companies come into Africa, such as Nubank. They bought a stake in Time Bank, which, as you know, in South Africa, which is super interesting. Maybe at some point it's an exit for Time Bank, to Nubank. But the big question in my head always as an investor is, what is this exit value tap out at? Is it 300 million? Is it 400? Is it 500 on the M&A side? And of course, we also have public markets, as you know. We've seen in South Africa again, which is I think the most buoyant exit market. You've seen Optasia just recently go public at a really good valuation. So, that is interesting. You've seen an exit in an IPO in Morocco also earlier this year. So as an investor, exit is always a difficult question, but we as investors think about exit from day one. When we're investing in a company, we're thinking about who can we help them exit to. We are always building relationships with corporate LPs. We have a large LP network at Speedinvest, which is corporate, or with Middle Eastern, investors, to see, can they come in? Can some of the Americans come in? We had, a Move in our portfolio that got funded by Uber. So we are constantly thinking about, how can we catalyze more international players and catalyze more capital and exits in Africa.
Bloomberg is looking for entrepreneurs, innovative thinkers, and barrier breakers for the second edition of the Africa Startups to Watch list. The project seeks to showcase the smartest ideas and founders from all over the continent. The companies will be unveiled in the first quarter of 2026 and will be profiled on Bloomberg TV and our other platforms. Just scan the QR code on your screen to send us your application. After the break, Fintech remains at the heart of Africa's digital revolution, driven by rising mobile adoption and strong demand for financial inclusion. We hear from Flutterwave, Africa's most valuable unicorn, on its path to profitability. Plus, Optasia, the AI-powered fintech that made a blockbuster debut on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in November. My conversation with CEO Salvador Anglada next. welcome back to Next Africa. I'm Jennifer Zabasaja in Johannesburg. Africa's fintech sector has seen remarkable growth over the past decade. It's now a key pillar of Africa's tech economy, reshaping how people access and use financial services. According to a McKinsey report, fintech revenue in Africa will reach $47 billion by 2028, a sign of just how fast the ecosystem is expanding. One standout in this momentum is Optasia, an AI-powered fintech firm that made a successful debut on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in November. I spoke with Group CEO Salvador Anglada on the company's expansion plans.
Well, I mean, we are in 38 countries, but if you think about the population that it's underserved from a banking perspective or from a financial service perspective, there are more than 1.7 billion people in the world. So even if we are quite extended our presence, there is still only in Africa there are 54 countries and we are only in 20 countries. So the expectation is, of course, to continue expanding in those countries. Also, we are opening up our presence in Asia, in countries like Philippines, Indonesia, or Malaysia. Very interesting for us. We serve today 130 million active customers, but the goal would be in the next 3 to 5 years to duplicate this amount, hopefully to be in 80-85% of the countries in Africa, because, I mean, for them, sometimes it's the only formal way to access to credit.
When it comes to fintech in Africa, no conversation is complete without mentioning Flutterwave. It's the continent's most valuable unicorn, valued at more than $3 billion. The Lagos-based firm operates in over 30 countries and processes more than 500,000 payments every day. I spoke to Flutterwave CEO Olugbenga Agboola about the company's path to profitability and its plans for an eventual IPO.
2026 for us is the year that everything just comes together, right? We're not just moving money. The last decade, literally, we've been in the race for Africa's growth, right? And the future of Africa, in our opinion, is not hype, it's infrastructure-led. When Africa wins, the global economy wins. We're building the pipes, and those pipes are now off age. Now, as of right now, we are the biggest fintech in Africa, the most licensed non-bank entity. In the last 10 years, we've built that muscle. Now we're putting that to the test, all right? Now we've covered the entire world. We have UK, US, UAE, Canada, Europe covered through our partnership with Global Revenue, for example, and Nuvian. And the point behind that really is, how do we ensure we use that infrastructure to drive the next phase of growth for Flutterwave by empowering our customers across all our segments?
Do you expect to add more markets then potentially in 26, or is it just continuing to build on some of the infrastructure you mentioned?
A combination of both, actually. We'll go deep. We're going to go deeper, not wider. But that said, we're doing UAE next year, and we're not doing direct. We're doing through a partnership, right? Because payment is partnership. We're doing a lot of markets like Hong Kong next year through partnership. Because again, we want to be in every major trade route for Africa. Where money flows from Africa, we need to be there. Because if we're making our customers to get paid and pay, we have to enable that corridor for them. For example, here PC Airline, we're able to expand from Nigeria to the UK and other regions this year, actually. And we enable that growth because we are also in the UK, or we're in the UK through our partner. And that's what we bring to the table. We have to be for our customers, we have to be where they want to be to actually protect their business and enable their growth.
GB, we're seeing a number of fintechs on the continent reach unicorn status in addition to Flutterwave. I wonder if you look at the current environment right now and see potentially opportunities for other types of startups to join this very exclusive group. What does the environment is it conducive enough for other sectors, or is fintech going to continue to dominate in your opinion?
Actually, other sectors will start growing. You start seeing that going forward. Payment is so key and pivotal. I said that, typically, if you look at how an economy is growing, 3 things are key: payments, logistics, and commerce. Now you're seeing payments is being solved in Africa thanks to Flutterwave and other folks as well. Commerce is booming right now. So is logistics, right? Once those 3 layers, those foundational infra are built, which we're getting there, naturally, you see a lot more companies grow even faster than we have gone far away because we are now infrastructure, right? And that's what you see. It's like AWS. AWS is great, but you can imagine, companies like OpenAI who are building on all these pipes, they will be faster. And that's what you see. So I anticipate that you see a lot more unicorns global companies growing massively from Africa in the next decade.
Coming up, Axian CEO Hassanein Hiridjee tells us why building Africa's digital backbone will be key to supporting the continent's next wave of innovation. Welcome back to Next Africa. I'm Jennifer Zabasaja in Johannesburg. Access to fast, affordable internet is still out of reach for millions of South Africans, especially in townships. For nearly a quarter of the country's residents, digital infrastructure has changed little since the end of apartheid more than 2 decades ago. I traveled to Kayamandi to meet a startup that's seeking to level the playing field and bring high-speed connectivity to communities that have been left behind. Just an hour outside Cape Town is the township of Kayamandi, a community where most people earn about $300 a month. Fibertime, a South African startup focused on digital inclusion, is trying to bring high-speed internet to townships at an affordable price.
Our consumers generally pay for services and goods on a daily basis, so we really play in the true pay-as-you-go market segment.
For CEO Danvig de Bruin, Fibertime's innovative last-mile high-speed internet delivery infrastructure means they've been able to beat out a number of competitors.
So we plant thousands of poles every week across the country. So our distribution networks usually are in the air, aerial fiber, so we plant these poles across the township. And then from these poles we connect every home. So from the pole, we'll drop a cable inside the home, we'll knock on the door, and we'll ask if we can put up a nice Nokia router inside your home with a backup power supply.
And for just 5 Rand a day, or roughly 30 American cents, residents can access 100 megabits per second of uncapped internet.
Yes, it's changed a life because the children now are learning from internet most of the things. So first time we have to buy data for our kids. But now if you buy that Fibertime for the month, you can use and for your children also to do school things.
I like it because you're not spending a lot of money.
So our consumers or customers use an average of 5 gigs a day for 5 Rand. It's about 7 times cheaper than our competitors. There's also more, but this is part of the shop.
150, yeah, Vodacom also is trying to
correct.
play in the same space.
Correct, yeah, they also take the 5 Rand, but for 5 Rand you can get 150 megs, that's about 7 minutes of TikTok.
Really?
To give you an idea.
That's it?
That's about it.
Several phone companies are also vying for a slice of the township high-speed market. While Fibertime is cheaper for those paying a daily rate, South Africa's Vodacom offers a monthly option for 99 Rand. According to internal figures Fibertime shared with Bloomberg, the company is growing quickly. With more than 200,000 households already connected, they're adding about 1,000 homes per day. If they can maintain this momentum, they expect to list on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange by 2027.
The plan is to connect about 1.8 to 2 million homes on listing date. So that will put us about on 6.7 billion rands of revenue annualized. So that will give us enough scale to do a successful listing.
With a nearly $5 million investment from the Finnish government and Nokia providing the infrastructure, Fibertime is confident it can reach that goal. Poor infrastructure and low digital literacy isn't limited to South Africa. That's why Fibertime hopes success at home will serve as a springboard into other markets.
One thing that we are very clear on that is that inequality is a universal problem and that there's a need for our product across the world. However, the market in South Africa is massive, so we think we're going to focus on South Africa for the next couple of years, but there's definitely expansion plans in the pipeline to Latin America and Asia and Africa.
And in a country where youth unemployment tops 60%, making it easier for South Africans to access fast internet cheaply could go a long way in creating jobs, boosting incomes, and growth. While connectivity is central to Africa's digital future, telecom leaders say far more investment is needed to build stronger infrastructure. I spoke with Hassanein Hiridjee, founder of Axian Group, which owns the largest shareholding of e-commerce giant Jumia. He told me that telecommunications is the backbone of AI in Africa and that the continent will need much stronger infrastructure to unlock its full potential.
Telecommunication is the real backbone today of AI in Africa. Why? Because you've got three pieces in telecommunication. You've got the first mile, bringing submarine cable, bringing data towards the continent, and this is accelerating, connectivity is growing. The second mile is the mid mile. You bring the connectivity down to data center, and the last mile is you're distributing it either via fiber, either via GSM, etc. So it's the real backbone. Second thing is that the telecom player are the one that has started all data center. The data centers started in all of the countries in Africa first with telecom player, and they created POP data center. So they should be the one who should push with connectivity, with infrastructure, the AI experience. We have started that in our own business at Axian. What we have been doing is that we took out from our telecom business the data center, so we can make them carrier neutral and growing them with energy, with renewable stuff, to make sure that we're not increasing our carbon footprint, and to open it to all other people that are looking to host some capacity, to host some servers, etc.
Does it concern you, though, that we're seeing a lot of international players, maybe Western players, bringing their own cables, fiber, trying to develop their own technology onto the continent? In some way, it's taking away from some of the local players, right? I mean, how do you think about the competition that's ensuing in telecom space?
Africa needs a lot of investment, either local or foreign direct investment. I think it's a very good thing to have international players coming and invest in Africa, in data center industry, in AI. We need skills, we need new investment, and the sun is shining for everybody. There's so many things to do and to invest in Africa in those business models. So for us, it's a very good thing.
Are you working with any of them?
Absolutely, that's the second thing. We cannot do it alone only. Okay, we need to have partnership. So we're discussing with hyperscaler. We are very much finalizing a partnership with a big hyperscaler to accelerate in terms of data center business, in terms of AI business model. And for us, it's very important. We don't have access like this easily on GPUs, NVIDIA technology, etc. So we're progressing on that aspect, and we're sure that very soon we'll be able to announce stuff. Second thing, we just signed recently with our Fintech business a global partnership with MasterCard.
Yeah.
Everything now in technology, in AI, is about partnership. We have to grow together. Partnership with the governments, partnership with international player. Okay, an international player should also always consider local partnership, and they're doing so, and that's very important.
And that's Next Africa for this month. But don't forget our weekly podcast for more of what's happening across the continent, available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you usually get your podcasts. You can also subscribe to our bi-weekly Next Africa newsletter, available on the terminal and website for even more reporting from the Bloomberg team. I'm Jennifer Zabasaja in Johannesburg. We'll see you next time.